Hey, welcome to Dawn. This is a space of contemplation, reflection, time for you to do what you need to do to spend time with God. And we're going to do a short reflection, bring a little bit of a focus, and then we'll have a time of worship where you can just sit, listen to the words, or worship or pray, or whatever it is that you want to do. Whatever time of the day or the week you're watching this, I'm glad you're here. I hope it is helpful for you. I remember one time I was driving home on a road that I'd been on 1,000 times near where I live. It was so familiar to me. I was driving home on this road and it was like intensely deep, thick fog. Like I'm talking like I could see just about a meter or so in front of the car. It was crazy. I was driving really slowly. I wound my windows down. It was the most deadening silence you've ever heard. The street lights, the light was being sort of warped from the fog. It was this like eerie yellow color. It felt like I was on a different planet. It was like these roads I'd known so well, all of a sudden I barely knew where I was. I just couldn't really understand the roads in the same way. I was driving really slow, really unsure, like where am I? How am I gonna get home? It's like I wasn't sure of like all of a sudden in one of those like creepy films where like something's just gonna pop up, whether I was like driving in the right way. I was like desperately looking for the road markings, but I could only see like one dash of the road at a time. And it really felt like I just didn't know where I was. I couldn't see anything, I couldn't hear anything. Very disorientating. Maybe sometimes, if we're honest, that's how we experience some seasons of our life. Maybe you're in that very season of your life right now where you just feel like I can't see anything, my future just seems so foggy, I can't really hear anything, I don't really know where it is I'm supposed to be going. In fact, everything that I once knew, I just can't seem to see. All I've got are these like little dashes of things that I can just about catch, and I just really don't know where my life is going right now, and I feel like I just can't see. Maybe you feel like that, maybe that disorientation of that season of life. Maybe you're not in it right now, but there will definitely be times of life where you experience that. There's been times in my life where I felt like that. I just don't know where I'm going. I just couldn't see past. Well, the thing is about following Jesus is it requires faith, especially faith in the unseen. We're putting our faith in a God who we physically cannot see. We can see his work, we can see the evidence of God all around us, but we cannot see God himself in that way. So it requires faith in the unseen. So if to follow Jesus is to have faith in the unseen, if these seasons of our life where we just feel like we just can't see, I believe that there's hope and that God wants to meet us in those moments, especially where we feel like we just don't know where we are. We just can't seem to grasp hold of anything. Well, the psalmist David, he's in one of these moods where he is really irritated at people who are not following God. So he's kind of like raging at people, like, oh God, when are you going to punish them? Like, well, why have they turned their back on you? So he is really forceful about it, and he almost like touches on human ignorance or human arrogance to be like, how is it that you think you can turn your back on God? He's like raged. But then he tells his story, this like vulnerable part in the middle. So we're going to read it in Psalm 94. And I believe this speaks right into this place. So I hope it's helpful. I hope it really gives you a little bit of something to hold on to if you find yourself in that season. So Psalm 94 says this. It says, they say, the Lord does not see. The God of Jacob takes no notice. Take no notice, you senseless ones among the people. See what I mean? He's a little bit angsty. He says, you fools, when will you become wise? And this is a bit I want us to focus on. It says, does he who fashioned the ear not hear? Does he who formed the eye not see? Does he who disciplines nations not punish? Does he who teaches mankind lack knowledge? The Lord knows all human plans. He knows that they are futile. So David is essentially saying this. When people think that they can turn their back on God, because here's the thing, when you and I find ourselves in those seasons where things like we just cannot see, things are really difficult, things are foggy in our life, it can be really easy to take things into our own hands and to be like, I'm going to trust my own vision because I can see it, rather than trust the unseen, which is God and the way that he leads. It's too easy, it's too tempting, isn't it, to be like, I'll do it my way. In fact, we really just need to be trusting God. So David says this, does he who made the eye not see? In other words, he's being like, look at the human arrogance to think that we have a perspective that is bigger than God's. Yet the God of creation, the one who made eyes, of course he can see better than us. The one who fashioned our ears, He can hear better than us. In other words, what David is trying to say here is, do not just trust your own eyes. Do not just trust your own vision. Do not just trust the way that you see your life, but trust God and that He sees things in a completely different way than you. He's essentially trying to show us something. He's trying to say, look, trust God. His vantage point is far higher. His ways are far higher than the way that you can see. So that's my first encouragement. If you feel like you're in that place, is don't just rely on your own strength or rely on your own vision, but trust God and believe that He can see things in a completely different way. So David uses a bit of his story. He says this, unless the Lord had given me help, I would soon have dwelt in the silence of death. In other words, if God hadn't helped me, I wouldn't be here. Many of you have that same story too. Unless the Lord had given me help, I would have soon dwelt in the silence of death. And listen to this. When I said, my foot is slipping, your unfailing love, Lord, supported me. When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy. David is saying, look, when I was anxious, when I didn't know what the future looked like, you consoled me and brought me joy. Friends, if you're listening this morning, you're in that place of your life, I want you to know this. There is joy available for you in the midst of this season that just looks so dark and foggy. There is joy available in the midst of this completely disorientating place. God wants to bring you joy. His unfailing love wants to bring you joy. In this moment, whatever your life looks like, my encouragement to you today and in this time of reflection is this, is maybe spend some time and just say, God, I cannot see, but I trust you, and would your unfailing love come and bring me joy in the midst of this craziness of this moment. And I believe that your circumstance might not change, but you will change in the middle of your circumstance. You will find yourself more peaceful, more joyful, more stable, not because of anything you can do, but because of God's unfailing love. Hope this was helpful this morning. See you real soon.
I could run 1,000 miles to win the race of life, but what's the fun without you? And I could write 1,000 songs to captivate your heart, but more than offers, God, you seek the